Hi there, I hope you're well. Welcome to the weekend.
Oh,
Hi,
welcome.
so today we're going to be looking at the asking price myth. Buyers always need a discount, do they? Is that true? Is that false?
Who
Let's
knows?
have a discussion. Do you believe that buyers never pay the asking price? Many sellers feel that way, but it's not really true.
Mhm.
Most buyers are simply looking for somewhere to live that they will love, aren't they, Soph?
Absolutely, 100%.
And the homes that garners the most interest
Mhm.
sell faster and even get multiple offers are the ones that are correctly priced. And that's what's important. So, where does the asking price myth come from? What can it cost you? And how can you break free of this myth? The answers are all going to be revealed today. So, Sophie and I are going to cover that. And we're going to look at a few topics here. So, we're going to look at pre internet thinking. What does your agency do that potentially gets you the best price? The agent overvaluation trap. Some people can fall into that, and how
Yep.
can that actually have a negative impact or positive impact on you? Misguided sellers' belief. So, again, how do we educate the sellers when we're out as agents, and how do we
Mhm.
help them understand the market today? Overblown media messages. So again, lots in the news at the moment. We've just seen inflation price come down. I've been
Yep.
doing lots of interesting stuff on that today. So again, there's lots of noise around that. So how much of that white noise do you take in and think that that's true?
Mhm.
Um, and the right way to get the highest price. So what works for us and for you, and how do you make that work the best way you can to get you the ultimate price that you're looking for? There's plenty to explore. And we're also going to look at some of the things that get your sold sign at the highest price your home deserves, without unnecessary stress or delays, and about how you can put your confidence in the person that you're chosen to work with to sell your home. So let's get started then, Sophie. So pre-internet thinking, Sophie, what does that look like?
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea that homes never sell for their asking price goes back to the kind of dinosaur days, before the internet, when the moving process was more, let's say, opaque.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to give an insight into what it looked like, there was estate agent influence. So back then, buyers had to register with agents one by one, and agents chose homes to then show them, dropping hints wherever a seller might take a lower offer. So you'd have to go around, maybe walk into an office. It was an office, register with them all. Whereas these days, you can, sign up to Rightmove, you can sign up to Zoopla, you can still go around the agencies, absolutely, and we always recommend that. But there's definitely more streamlined ways. Um, Information gap. So house price data, as we know it, didn't exist. The amount of information that's available, whether it be watching our blogs and our shows, because we give a lot of information weekly, or whether you go obviously to the wider internet search, back then they didn't have that readily available. So sellers had less tools to kind of check their advice, to kind of chip in. So, and also reference it to what that agent was telling them. Whereas these days, where we can, at least anything we say, we always back up with facts.
Yeah.
Back then, you kind of were just hoping for the best, and it was a stab in the dark.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point because now people can go onto Zoopla and to Rightmove. Everyone's tech savvy now, aren't they? Everything
Absolutely.
happens on this. We
Yeah.
literally, our lives are on it. So I think, you can go onto Rightmove, you can look at what properties available in Fife, you can look at what properties have sold in Fife, you can look at today's stock, you can take it down to Leaven, you could take it to St Andrews, you could literally break it down into your area so you can know what's for sale, what the price points are, what's already sold. So you get a feel as well for yourself. So actually, as well as having a really informed agent and the blogs, as you say, that we do, you can actually help yourself get a bit more educated as well by just going onto these apps, can't you?
Absolutely. And I think when we go out, you'll either get people that are so clued up and they know all of this, or there's still some people that just don't. They just leave it down to the agent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and another element is the hidden history. So there was no public records before of when a property first came on the market,
Mm-hmm.
or even when it was reduced or realigned in price. but we can see all that information now. We can see when it went online, when it was last reduced, what it sold for previously. So you can see obviously how it's been priced. So it is harder for buyers to tell which homes were sticking back then, but now it's a bit clearer. And you'll get it the same as I'll do. We'll go out to appointments and they'll say, oh, that one's been on since that date and that one's been on since that date if there's other properties on the street. So people are more aware because the information is there to be used.
I agree. And even when I'm going out to value a property at the moment, we always prepare our presentation pack, don't we? And we have hard copies of everything. And when I'm showing the case studies of examples of properties that have sold in the area, you know, it's quite often that you'll get your case study out and they go, oh, I remember that was such and such, and that went for such and such. And they're actually educating you before you've had a chance sometimes to educate them. But as you say, it's not everybody that has access to that. So it's great to make sure that you do get that informed choice, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And this has all been disrupted by estate agency websites, the property portals, and also price bands, because buyers can now see every home for sale in their price range and how long it's been available without actually having to talk to anybody. As you say, it's right there on their phone, and kind of transparency now reigns supreme, which means that precision pricing is absolutely vital to avoid losing valuable interest. But also that agents' valuations also are easier to understand and also challenge. I would say that don't be afraid to interview your agent. And also if you're perhaps getting three, like I've been out to some recently, and Perrie, you'll be the same, where maybe two of us have come in at similar valuation, and there was one agent who was not known in this area at all and had added on like 35 grand. And I was like, based on what? Did you ask them? And don't be alarmed to do that, because you're potentially going to be trusting them with your biggest asset. So to have faith in them. So that is a key thing, is understanding where your agent's valuation come from, and don't be afraid to challenge it and ask questions.
That's a really valuable point, literally valuable point, because it could make or break actually what you next do as a seller. You know, everyone's selling for a reason. There's circumstances. You could be upsizing, downsizing. You may be bringing other family members together. You might be helping out other family members to get on the property ladder. So actually getting that accurate number is really vital to make all those life choices, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that this kind of actually nicely flows into the next topic, Perrie. So over to you for this one.
Yeah, so the agent overlapping trap, overvaluation, trap. And that's exactly what we've just been speaking about briefly there. Nothing is sweeter than being told your home could be worth tens of thousands of pounds more than you thought. You could see clients' eyes light up when you tell them that, because they've got a vision in their mind. And so it really feels great to them. But it's crucial to know whether that high valuation is actually achievable. And I often say this, you know, as you said, I've been out to people who have had someone else in to value it, and mine might be slightly different. I might be 20,000 less or 20,000 over. Whichever way that goes, it's about making sure that you really understand, how did that agent get that, and can they demonstrate their thinking to you? And I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Getting an achievable number. Unfortunately, one of the easiest, dare I say the laziest, ways for agents to get homes listed on their books is to promise the seller the earth, then change their story later on. And that can be really difficult, because actually it's all about trust, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, that individual person has chosen you because you've turned up, you've presented yourself well, you've looked respectable, you've looked professional and businesslike, and they've trusted what you've told them. And it's really important to be able to evidence all of that trust with them. So if you do then offer the world, and that world cannot be achieved for them, you really are going to end up with a lot of disappointment, aren't you? So as I said earlier on, unfortunately, some people will do that and then change how things work as it goes through. So for me, there's elements to this, and it's winning that business. The agent is out there to win the business. Of course they are. They want to list that property. But instead of showing you nearby recent sold prices, an agent gives you a flattering and inflated valuation that plants the seed of selling for a much higher price. That's hard to resist for someone, because then suddenly you're thinking, well, actually that extra 30,000, what can I do with that? Maybe I could get a different house. I'm not going to need to borrow as much money. So there's lots of reasons why someone would see that as an attractive option. Really important to get that demonstration from that agent on how they've achieved that number. And, you know, what was their science behind it? And are they showing you that? I think that's really important, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think when you do have an agent doing that, it shows their lack of expertise in the area if they're not prominent or known in the area or have listings. If they come in and completely over trumping it, that shows a lack. And is it they are just doing it to try and get a footing in the area? You do see it.
And you do get that, and we've seen that ourselves, haven't we? But I think that's not a positive way to start a relationship if you've done that just to get the listing, because it'll always end up in a negative way. So they're going to do that. They're either going to win your business by doing that, overinflating it, or they're going to be wearing you down when you're in that process. So once you've signed on the dotted line because you thought this is fantastic what they're offering me, I'm going to jump with that one, and that's the reason why I'm doing it. All the numbers look so much better. So you've signed on that dotted line. Your agent gradually starts to lower your expectations by claiming that they gave it their best shot. We've tried that price. We've shot for the stars, but the market's changed. That's a frequent response that someone will get. But if you have literally just gone out last week, say, and you've won that business because you've overinflated the valuation, and then this week it's on the market and there's no interest, that's not a market change in a week. You know, market changes take months to kick in.
Correct.
Unless there's a massive Liz Truss moment again, and then it spirals in one sweep. But actually, it's a really tricky one to do that, because if you think about the fact that you're going to shoot for the stars and then not quite deliver on that, and then you're talking about market changes, then actually you're going to lose faith in your agent, and that's just going to really be disappointing. So definitely something to be vigilant about, I would say, in understanding how they've got to that price. They're going to tie you up as well a little bit. So you're locked in with a lengthy agreement. So again, have you had that discussion? Well, what if it doesn't happen and we don't get the property sold? I've got this expectation now. If I want to go and use that different agent, who actually now I wish I had, because they gave me real information and demonstrated that to me, am I tied into that agent that I'm currently listed with? So again, they could do that. They tie into lengthy agreements. That potentially stops you from going elsewhere. They're effectively forcing you to give that agent an undeserved second chance at a lower price. So, you know, they've overinflated the price. You've gone with them because it's higher and you think this is great. It's not getting sold. So then the price reduction happens. Then another price reduction happens. And you're then at a point where actually you can't walk away, are you? You're pretty much, your hands are tied.
Correct, yeah. And then we always say, if we are having somebody come from another agency over to ourselves, the damage has been done, even though there is absolutely nothing wrong with the property. Damage has already been done, and we have to then repair all the pieces and pull it all back together. And it makes our job even harder because there has been damage done with no fault of your own. And we always say it's a mindset thing, that if people see the price continuously going down, people automatically go, what's wrong with it? When it's nothing wrong with the property. It was just set far too high to begin with, and it wasn't demonstrated. And then now, through, as I say, no fault of your own, you're stuck a wee bit.
You are stuck a wee bit, and it can hamper what you then do next. And actually what we definitely see is when we launch a property, say at pre-portal, and then the personal property tour goes out there about 4 or 5 days later, those first 2 to 3 weeks is really when the highest amount of activity happens with a property. So that is lost because you've already been marketed, you're on with someone else, and then it becomes a kind of whole rewrite of your property. And then what actually then happens is that second agent that you pick becomes it's a more difficult challenge. But actually, if they have just got the one box as well, the same as the previous box, and they haven't got all this videography work that we would do, then actually where's the new pizzazz, where's the new thing that's going to captivate a different audience? Because it's not necessarily, again, we talk about this as well, it's not necessarily how long your house has been on the market, it's how long your buyer's been there. But is your buyer going to be there if your price is overinflated? Because they're thinking, well, I wouldn't pay that for it, it's a lovely house, but it's too much. So it's about making sure we get it priced right, and then doing that what's different, how do we capture that audience?
Absolutely.
Makes a big difference. So definitely that's something that you would be tying yourself into. So again, it's important to check that as well. How long does that agreement last for? If there's a way to walk away from it, what does that look like in time and also in money for you? So again, explore that. But as well as being a disappointing experience for you, the overvaluing in practice creates a landscape of price reductions that makes it look like homes never sell for their full price. And that's something as well, isn't it? So we're talking about, buyers always need a discount, do they? Well, it's not necessarily true. But if you've had it on the market, you've had to reduce your price multiple times, then it does look like you've actually given your house away when you do sell it. But the reality of it was actually just wrongly priced at the beginning. But then what happens is the person 3 doors down, when they sell theirs, their buyer is going to think they can get the same price. And that can make a big difference to what happens next. But fortunately, you can avoid this with some homework. Check the portals for sold prices. Also check them what they look like in the last 3 to 6 months. That's really important. And make sure your contract lets you switch agents easily if things don't go to plan. That's a really important one as well. And actually, when you're checking those portals, really simplistic. I touched on it a little bit earlier on. You can go into Rightmove. You live in the leaving area, for instance. You can go in and put leaving, what's for sale. It'll tell you the number of properties that are for sale. You can then go in and put, please exclude the ones that are already under offer, and then it'll give you what's left. And if you look at the percentages there, it'll give you a good insight to actually what is likely to sell and how quickly it's likely to sell for.
Absolutely. And then to get the 3 to 6 months, you can go on Rightmove and it's accessible to everybody. You can do the sold house prices tab, put in your postcode, and you'll see as well. And as well, something even I actually think it was yesterday, somebody couldn't even remember what they paid for their property. And it was me that told them. I said, this is how much you paid. And they're like, oh, really? Is that what I paid for property? I was like, yes, it was. And that information you can access as well. Just on Rightmove, you can just type in sold house prices and it brings it up. So you can see yours if you need a little reminder, but you can see the rest of the street as well. So that's a good way to go back. If you're maybe thinking, well, there's nothing currently for sale within my area, you can maybe go back and look for the last 3 to 6 months that way.
Exactly. And it's a good way to educate your mind on price values as well, so that when the agent does turn up, the agent can demonstrate the difference. So it could be actually there is a difference of 30,000, but that could be because you've put a £25,000 German kitchen and you've put new windows in. So all of these things add value to a house, and then that's where you demonstrate it. But if there's no demonstration of it and you haven't challenged it, where did this number come from? To quote, is it just a finger in the air number, or did it actually get calculated in a realistic way that delivers what you need? So that's really important when you're looking at maybe the overvaluation trap and how actually negatively it could impact you on how long you're marketed and the repeat reduction in your pricing as well. And then if you need to go somewhere else, it really hampers you. So what other areas do someone need to look at in regards to prices?
So another point then is misguided seller beliefs. Like most sellers, you love your home. Absolutely. It's where you spend a good part of your time. It's where you kind of unwind. It's your safe place. So you probably do love your home, and it's a wonderful feeling, and you will have that emotional attachment to it, which understandably can lead to an almost rose-tinted expectation on price when the time actually comes to move. While it's completely natural to see your home through a kind of unique lens, it's also wise to be mindful of the following potential pitfalls.
The thing we always get as well, Sophie, is my house will sell, no problem. It'll sell itself.
Yeah.
Repeat statement.
My neighbour told me that it'll sell in 10 days, or I know my house will sell, the other one sold. Or if we had a pound for every time we heard that, we wouldn't need to be working. Definitely not. So that is something. And I don't know about you, Perrie, but I find I go out to appointments and it's either, I tend to have a 50-50 split. It's either when they're showing me around the property, they'll always laugh because they actually point out all the negatives. Oh, if I was staying, I'd be changing that and I'd be changing that and I'd probably do that and I don't like that. Or you'll go in and you'll get people that are, I love this and I love that, and they're so enthusiastic. It's like I'm doing a viewing at the property. Like I get both ways. So I do get the kind of rose tinted, but I do get people, and then they'll joke and they'll go, I'm not selling it to you, am I? And they take their property to pieces.
Yeah.
When there's nothing for them to fault about it. I kind of get both ways when I'm going around.
It's because you're there 24/7, aren't you? You're living in the home and you live with it every day, and you notice it. You know, people say, "Oh, and I'm going to paint this room and I'm going to paint that room," and I'm like, I really wouldn't bother, because actually just giving yourself a job, it doesn't matter, because your buyer's going to come in, they'll see past that and they'll change the colouring anyway. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily work that needs to be done, but it is difficult. Yeah.
And it is, and it's natural to, you know, feel them through those lenses, but there is, so the things to consider is sentimental pricing. And what we mean by that is the magical memories that you've accumulated are absolutely priceless moments, whether you've brought up family within that property, whether obviously you've potentially had that in your family for decades, whatever that emotional tie is that you absolutely treasure. As harsh as this may sound, the buyer isn't buying that. They're buying the property as they see it to make their own priceless memories and their own experience within that property. So while you may obviously be thinking of that, we need to think about your buyer, and also a mortgage provider is not thinking about that either. They're just not. They're looking at the bricks and mortar, the standard, the property. So we need to be cautious of sentimental pricing. There's also sticky situations when perhaps an owner insists on an inflated asking price and an agent agrees to try it. The result is usually minimal interest with unnecessary delays, and then it can perhaps create a deteriorating relationship. And that, it's one of those where, okay, this is what they want to put it on for. Absolutely, that's not a problem at all. But those, as you said, the first couple of weeks are absolutely crucial. That is when we give that first impression. That's when it's hot. So if we agree to put it on at an inflated asking price, we don't get the interest, then actually we need to realign it down to what we were educating and suggesting you did in the first place. We've just delayed a process and we could have had you a buyer, because if I can't get buyers through the door, I have nobody to negotiate with to be able to push that price back up. And then it does become a sticking point, and then there's that potential of not the relationship that we had set out thinking we would have.
And the seller just becomes very despondent, don't they? Because again, they've got this image in their mind of what their expectation is, and when that doesn't happen, the natural feeling is that they will pass that emotion to us, because we're the person that they see as the one that was meant to make this happen for them. And when it doesn't happen, then that's where their frustration potentially can come into play as well. And it becomes it's not a nice, healthy relationship to create at the outset of trying to sell your house. It's an exciting time. You want all that buzz around it. You want to get as many people in as you can, but you've got to make sure that it's priced right.
Absolutely, because the next point then, and this kind of flows in perfectly, is going stale in public. The portals have created remarkable savvy buyers, exposing homes that are perhaps priced too high, showing how long they've been stuck, and detailing every single price reduction, realignment. So the trick is to acknowledge the difference between your valued experiences in your home and your home market's value, which we appreciate can be easier said than done, but it can perhaps stop you from unintentionally pushing buyers away. And this was all a conversation we were having yesterday as well about, you know, are we potentially pushing buyers away with perhaps oversharing or asking for too much, and what does that look like? And it can have a detriment on your sale, and ultimately then projects back onto us, and that's not what we want.
No, not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to allow you to manage your life as it's happening, and we want to be able to share that positive experience with you. You know, we live and work in our community, so we need every transaction to be a positive experience, don't we? But it can be very frustrating for someone, because there will be a big life event that is making them have to sell this house. So you have the pressure of that as well. And we also see it, don't we, where actually they need to get a particular price because they may have already offered on another property. So they've put themselves under a lot of pressure because they've maybe found something they then need to sell. Whereas actually, you know, our recommendation would be get yourself marketed. At least then you know what your number is and you know what you're going to. But so they're disappointed that they haven't got an offer on their house. They're over anxious because they've potentially found their dream home. Their people that they're buying from are saying, come on, we've also found ours, so we need you to get yours sold, and you're not getting something. So it all starts to then break down, doesn't it? And that becomes a real pressure pot of bubbling. And rightly, they're engaging us to be able to help them, so that's going to come back at us, and we appreciate that. But it's about getting off to that right footing at the beginning, isn't it?
Absolutely, because there can be a lot of pain points otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things we talked about earlier on was the overblown media messaging. And I think that really comes into play as well, because then people can believe what they hear, and sometimes that expectation's not the reality of maybe where they are at that moment with their house. So property makes great content as well. We go on the news and they're talking about the housing market constantly, whether it's terrestrial telly, as I've said, whether it's streaming shows online like this, social media gurus, entertainment people. We tend to really enjoy it, and sometimes the public can lap all that up and get carried away in the wave of whatever message is coming through there. But it's highly watchable and it's highly readable. It often focuses on the friction and the drama, and actually the little line of truth goes right to the bottom of the screen, and no one wants to kind of recognize or hear that bit. They're just going to hear the big headline, don't they?
Yes.
And it's like the big CNN moment. That's all we want to hear. We do it ourselves when we're watching Sky or BBC, whatever it is, but you get your ticker tape. It's that ticker tape moment, and that's the only bit you kind of focus on. You don't actually listen to all of the other information that's coming your way, and that can be quite dangerous because it can lead you into a false realization, can't it?
Absolutely. And then absolutely. And I would say a part of this as well, yes, media and all of that, but we also say to our clients, don't always listen to all the outside noise of just not media, but what's your neighbor telling you? What's your friends telling you? They're an expert and all they've sold houses. So 5 houses before they know what they're doing. Just be really conscious of all that outside noise.
Yeah. It's really important. Property shows will always spice things up for sensational viewings. At the end of the day, that's what they want. If they don't get the viewings, they don't have a show. So they're doing it for their own reasons. But it fosters expectations of conflict in the real world as well. And the impression that overpricing is necessarily not a great thing, that can come into play in these property shows. They really bring it out at your face and make you feel a little bit, well, I should have that because they've got that, so I deserve it as well. Doesn't always work that way. So that's something to really watch. The impressions and overpricing is necessarily, as I say, it's a bit of a defensive thing to put in place for an excuse really why something's not happening. And actually it might not be the reality either. So you need to kind of really pay attention to that. News headlines stroke anxiety and rivalry as well. There's that part there too. It portrays it moving home as it is for winners, and if you don't, then there's something wrong with your house, and it kind of a bit of a divide there as well with winners and losers. Pushing sellers to inflate their asking prices, which is what's happening, and they brace themselves for lower offers, which again is not the right way to be going about it. You want to price your property properly, and you want to achieve your asking price and more. Ideally is what you want. At the end of the day, we always say this, something's only worth what someone will pay for it. And if people feel that they're overpaying, we do it ourselves. You'll get to the tills and they say, do you want a receipt with that? And you're like thinking, well, yeah, I've got a trolley full of stuff, I might just check that. You go to a restaurant and then suddenly before you know it, they've not talked to you about it, but you've got a maximum 10% gratuity on it before you've even decided that you're going to pay a gratuity. So, that's just what happens, isn't it? Inflation gets pushed on people. So it's about just being a little bit savvy on that as well. Online influencers can be a negative thing as well, can't they? They promote negativity. They promote negotiating hard as being the norm. They're leaving sellers with a distorted impression that every buyer insists on a bargain as well, and that's not the case. It's like drive them down. That's not what it's about. It's about getting what's realistic for that home. And I often say this to my clients, is potential buyers, is this your dream home? What are you happy to pay for it? If you offered that number and you were successful, fantastic. If you offered that number and you didn't get the property, then at least you knew you were going to pay what you were willing to pay for the house. So there's different ways to look at it.
Yes.
But the property has to be realistically priced as well.
Absolutely.
That really comes into play. So for me, it's about making sure you get the essential information, that the messaging is not a narrative from someone else, that you have spoken to the correct people, and that you're not just going down a self-fulfilling prophecy of what you may think or what you read on Google experts. Because it often gives you the experience of buying and selling is really far more complex than it needs to be. And also it makes it really stressful. We talked about earlier on, it can be really stressful if you're in that situation now where you're in a chain and you're got all the pressure points from all other buyers and sellers as well. So really understanding what you're getting into and getting your facts right and evidencing those facts will allow you to hit the market at the right point and get off to the right start, won't it?
Absolutely. So then the kind of next one then is the right way to get the highest price. But we say this obviously with caution, with everything we've been saying, because correctly priced homes that are fresh to the market find it easier to generate that excitement and the competition among buyers. And when it comes to setting your asking price, it looks a little like the points we're going to discuss just now. And some of them we have already touched on, but we'll almost do like a recap for you. So this is compare similar homes in your area that have actually sold recently to gauge how high you can set your asking price while still looking like an exciting prospect for buyers. Because I still get it when I'm out and I hear are we still getting 10 to 15% over home report?
Yeah, that happens.
And I'm like, oh, and I have to educate. And it's maybe just the fact that it's not educated. That's all it simply is. But again, that is something I still do hear quite often. If you really want to add kind of
jokes going crazy in the background,
getting all excited.
I'm just going to shut that door. Won't be a second. Sorry, Soph. Nobody will hear you for pup. He's enjoying
He's obviously getting excited. He's getting excited. If you really want to add a negotiating margin, make sure you stay within the price band for homes like yours to avoid struggling against stronger competition. For also more expensive property, but also you need to think about as well, the more that you're pushing it up, are you potentially putting your property into the next banding for stamp duty? And then actually, is that just going to make less people interested because they're going to have to pay more stamp duty? But if you're a bit more strategic, perhaps, and stayed, for example, at 310 or 320 rather than pushing over your 325, you're not going to the next banding of stamp duty. So it's all those little pieces, but that's what your agent needs to be educating you on to allow you to get the most interest from as many buyers for us to then manage. Boost your speed of sale and selling price with perfect viewing presentation. So there's so many different kind of blogs and information that we have available for you to look at to help you get your property market ready and, you know, showing in its best light, whether it be we've got topics on will your home sell and using an agent with professional photos. We've done the lights, camera sold. We've also done the decluttering campaign as well, and that's a brilliant one that we know clients have used even regularly. Inspiring descriptions as well. The photography piece of it, you know, professional photographer, and something we speak about as well is what is that photographer doing in terms of not just the property but the location. Are we capturing aerial pictures? Are we showing the location? Are we really showing the property in its best light? I was just out this morning doing pre-portal at a property and the guy was like, yeah, the photographer was here yesterday. He was here for hours. He was brilliant. He was so in detail and so in depth. And he was like, I thought I had everything looking great, but he was like, just move that a wee bit, put that there. And he said, it's brilliant. And he was like, we are both so excited to see the photography. And so am I when he was telling me, and I says, I wouldn't expect anything less. So I'm excited for that one, but it's all those elements put together.
You get a feel for some, aren't you? And especially if they've got nice detail like gardens or sea views, etc. The one that we just listed in West Weems, oh my goodness, the sea views there, the garden, the walk along the front, the harbour pictures, just so beautiful. And it really does give it the highest highlight, doesn't it?
Absolutely, because people buy into that. It's the emotion, it's the lifestyle, it's all of that combined. So if we're capturing that, then we are going to get people through the door as long as we're priced accordingly. Because ultimately, buyers want to view homes that tick as many of their boxes as possible. Obviously, sometimes there has to be compromise on something, but if we can get as many of those boxes ticked as possible, not least that they then also can afford it. Whereas an inflated asking price can then deter the best of them, and it can make you perhaps invisible, which again does not help you move forward.
No, exactly. It doesn't help people move at all. I mean, we're looking at it's like, what's the perfect asking price for your home? For me, the myth that buyers will always need a discount is just that. It's a myth. What really matters is generating excitement, as you said. It's among the highest number of high quality buyers in the shortest space of time is what you want to get through your door. And you'll only do that by generating excitement. So that's in the complete presentation of the property, as you said. It's the videos, it's the photographs, it's the description, it's the walkthroughs, it's the animation, but ultimately it is the price as well. Because when people are going into Rightmove and they've got their search engines there and you've maybe got a budget of 340, you're not searching up to 350, you're only searching to 325. So you're missing those ones in that banding. So it doesn't matter how perfectly we prepared it. As you say, if you're invisible, you're invisible. So it's about making sure that it's right for the buyer market that's out there. So that's really important. And I think that that's something that you really need to consider when you're looking at moving as well.
Absolutely. So on that then, that's us done for another weekend. But if you do want help on getting it right, then reach out to us, whether it be comment on this, whether you prefer to send us a private message, or even pick up the phone and call the office and we can get an agent out to you. We can give you that accurate value, demonstrate how we've come to that, what the next steps look like, but also how we are performing in that area. And that's where we come prepared, as you said earlier, our presentation pack with our case studies, our value adds, and everything to show that we are the expert with that local knowledge in the area.
And I think for me, that would be my kind of final words on it as well. It's, as a person selling your home, get as educated as you can, challenge the agents, get more than one out because you want to have them demonstrate that to you. Get comfortable, understand it, and feel as well that you've chosen someone that feels as passionate about your home as you do, who has your interests at heart, and they're not just wanting a listing. They're wanting to help you achieve what you need to achieve. But educating yourself is a big, big tool. And if you don't know how to do that, when you get the agents out, challenge them to educate you. Ask the questions. That's it from me.
Brilliant. There we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great time. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah, perfect. All the best.
Bye.